Hi everyone and welcome back to the series. Today I'm going to be doing another interview. The entire term project, the name is How is the Internet Affecting the Way We Entertain Ourselves? So I've been sitting down with several people in my family, including some friends, and seeing what their opinion is on that subject. And today I'm sitting down with my Uncle Rich. Thank you so much, Uncle Rich, for being here. I really appreciate you answering these questions. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I work for a school district. I'm a school district administrator, and at the school district I take care of a lot of the building projects that happen in school buildings, such as energy projects like changing out lighting systems, just maintenance of the buildings, and just managing many employees that are actually doing the work, and a lot of contractors that we hire to do the additional work.
That's really interesting. I think it'll be great to get his opinion on the internet since he works with IT and schools, and that's something that we have been talking a lot about in my class, which I'll tell you a little bit about. Essentially, the class that I'm taking is an online psychology course. It's a depth course, so it's a little bit more intense work, but it's about the psychology of the internet and how it impacts our daily lives, and from anything from how the way we learn to how the way we perceive things, and even how we find like romantic partners. So I think each week we have a different unit on those kinds of topics. So, and one of them, the major one, was how we learn. So it'll be great to get your opinion on that, especially since you work in a school district and you see how the internet and computers are used in, the school setting. So yeah, again, thank you so much for being here. I'm just going to ask you about 10 questions or so. The first question is, do you use the internet? Which I'm sure is yes.
Well, these days it's really hard not to use the internet. Everything, it encompasses everything in our lives these days, not just entertainment, but productivity. You have to go online to look up information, generate documents, generate reports. So you've got to use the internet these days.
No, I definitely would agree with that. I think it's hard to find anyone who doesn't use the internet.
Correct.
So maybe a couple of grandmas and grandpas, but even then, that happens. So what do you think your most used social media app is?
Social media app, it's got to be Facebook. I don't use any others. And I don't use it really for entertainment. I use it more to try to stay in touch with folks.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, that was another thing we learned about in class is the internet, strengthening our way of communicating with others and our connections with others. And I think a lot of people would say that it is strengthening it because it's more constant communication as opposed to larger amounts of communications but less, frequent, sending letters or seeing someone in person. Whereas I can talk to people every single day.
Right.
So it's just, I think a lot of people have differing opinions on it. But I think, personally, being able to text someone every single day kind of strengthens a relationship and strengthens the communication and connection.
It does. I mean, there's a lot of interaction socially with communicating electronically, but there's also a lot of benefits and, a lot of things that you get in interacting with someone face to face. You get that emotional, because they say that you can hear a smile over the phone, but you can't hear a smile over the internet.
Yeah.
You'll have to use all kinds of special emojis, and, all kinds of like little funny faces and exclamation marks and whatnot. But so yeah, I think it's great for communicating, but I think we also need to be able to connect to each other face to face and not depend on electronic communications as much.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great point. Do you find the internet entertaining?
I don't really look to it like for entertainment. I look for it for information. If you think about maybe streaming some videos, some movies, maybe that could be considered entertainment. And in that case, I would look at it for entertainment, but I use it more for productivity. In my job, we use the internet for many applications that are related to technology or for programs that actually run machines in the buildings. Every machine, every system in the building is now controlled by computers. And of course, they're going out to the internet for all kinds of information to synchronize with each other between many different buildings. So I don't use it as much for entertainment, more productivity.
Okay, great. And In your opinion, I know you just said that you don't normally use it for entertainment, but do you have one video or something that you find to be the most entertaining thing, or just like any social media app, like a Netflix show?
I actually have become quite connected with Amazon Prime and all of the things that comes with it.
Yeah.
With movies and music and shows and even buying products.
Yeah.
Buying merchandise on the internet. It's magic, you know. You just order and it comes at your door. So
Yeah, no, I definitely order something on Amazon like once a week, if not every day.
exactly.
So it definitely makes a difference.
You can actually go onto Amazon and look at stream TV shows, and that's what I've been looking at. In that aspect, yeah, it's entertainment.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Right. So the next question is going to be, how often do you use the internet?
Daily.
Multiple times a day?
Even on the weekends, you
Yeah.
know, if I'm working on something, I've got to go and figure out what's been said or done on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that goes for everything with recipes for cooking or fixing a car or fixing something in the house.
Yeah. I think
it's daily.
Yeah, for me it's probably, it's from the minute I wake up to the minute I go to bed. I'm sure I use it a lot for social media apps. I think that's what my generation kind of does. So mine, I probably use the internet a lot more, but it's just crazy how much it impacts our lives and how much we do use it.
Right. It's you've become so integrated with it now that if you don't push yourself away from it, you're going to be, you know, looking at a lot of information electronically, where you're not having that social interaction, face-to-face social interaction.
Yeah, definitely.
And we have to be careful about everything that's published on the internet too, because, you know, you've heard the term a lot these days, like fake news. So just because it's on the internet, that doesn't mean it's fact. So
Yeah.
we got to be careful about that.
Yeah, that's great that you brought that up. That's another thing that we talked about in our class is fake news and clickbait. Just, you know, you'll see that headline and you'll want to click on it, but I know a lot of what we learned in class was being able to determine and differentiate between, you know, fake news and what's real, and not giving into that clickbait, because a lot of that is like very demeaning and derogatory to a lot of different people, and sometimes it's not even worth clicking on it, even though you're like, I wish it were true, because everyone wants the fake news to be true, but it never is, and it's not good to give into it. So that's really interesting. Do you think the internet is changing the way that we entertain ourselves?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I remember just 20 years ago, you entertain yourself by, you know, radio with airwaves, actually picking up frequencies out of the air, and then for music and or DVDs or cassette tapes, and now you're streaming live, you know. And I did see the transition from that world with the cassettes and the DVDs to, or rather CDs, to streaming with Napster and with a couple of other applications, where they got in trouble because they were selling copyrighted material over the internet, and a lot of those laws had not been passed yet.
Yeah.
So it was, you know, they were equating it to stealing. They were stealing from the music industry. So we saw that transition, but with movies, you had to actually go rent a cassette, a VHS cassette.
Yeah.
So, you know, the internet didn't exist, so you had to use all those different mediums to entertain yourself. But now everything is on the internet. You know, every movie, every song, every TV show, and then there's a lot of information you can look up as well. Like you look at a star on the TV and you're thinking, boy, is that guy still alive? And then you look up his Wikipedia.
Yeah, it's like information right at your hand whenever you need it.
And you're like, oh gosh, I missed his funeral. You know, sorry.
Gotta send him some flowers.
Right.
Yeah, I think that is really interesting. Just, you know, whenever I talk to my parents, it's always like any fact that they ever had to know, and I'm sure you would agree, you looked in the encyclopedia. And if it wasn't in the encyclopedia, you wouldn't be able to find out unless you asked a teacher or something, you know. And now it's, you know, it's hard to find if it's actually a reliable source, but for the most part, you know, as long as you're looking at different articles or something, it probably is correct. So.
Right, and we talked about fake news, and so there were specific media outlets, news outlets that you could depend on, that whatever they put on paper, that was fact, because they did their background research. And nowadays, that's questionable with a lot of that stuff. So
Yeah.
you've got to be careful about looking up information, whether that person is alive or dead, because in fact, they could be alive and not dead.
Yeah.
So
No, that's true. It's definitely one of the cons, I think, of the internet. I guess the next, that kind of like leads into the next question is, do you remember the first time the internet was, first invented? I think it was like the late 80s, early 90s. And do you remember the first time that you used it and like what you used it for?
yeah, I remember using it back in, I think, 92. Actually, even before then, I think it was 89 when I was working for a telecommunications company on the road. And I had to actually get on the internet and look up some settings on some computers that we were installing out west in Arizona. I had never done that before, so it was a weird experience because there was nothing graphical about it. It was all textual information, but
Yeah.
I still had to reach out via the internet using an IP address and a URL to something called a bulletin board system. So
Oh, really?
They
What's
would put
that?
the information out there, and you would have to go and FTP the information back to your computer.
Wow.
You couldn't just look it up live. You had to actually pull that data to your computer and then look at it.
Wow, yeah. I'm sure it's really interesting from that because you remember the first time you used it to now.
Right.
Even I remember back when I first started, the internet was always around when I was a kid, but, when I first started using it, probably like 2005, even within like 10 years, a decade, it has changed significantly. Now it's so much more. It's much faster. It used to be like the dial-up internet. Now it's much faster and the speed is.
Yeah, I started
lot
paying
greater.
my first bills on the internet, I think it was 1992, 1993, somewhere thereabouts, using Prodigy. It was the competition to AOL. AOL was the big fish in the pond on the internet.
Yeah.
But we were using Prodigy via modem connection, and then I would log into this service where I would connect my bank account with their service, and then they would pay my bills.
Yeah,
It
that's
was
crazy.
great.
Yeah,
Fancy.
now you can pay all your bills on the internet.
Everything, just about
I've
everything.
never paid a paper bill in my life. Now and I'll never know what that's like because all
Yeah.
mine are going to be on the internet.
It
Which
was
is
hard,
crazy.
because you had to write a check, put it in the envelope, put a stamp on it, and you had to get everything, all of that information had to come together so you can put it all in an envelope to get it to the mailman. Well, now you don't have to go through all of that.
Yeah, no, it's really great.
And it's a lot faster too.
That's very true. That kind of leads into the next question is, how do you think you would entertain yourself prior to the internet? And this could be like when you were a kid or, my age, anything.
Prior to the internet, again, audio cassettes, CDs, VHS cassettes for movies. Even before that, we had a Betamax player. Betamax. You had your VHS, but there were also Betamax tapes that were much smaller. They were supposedly supposed to be the better format, better resolution on video, but it never succeeded. The VHS took over, and so everybody went with that format of movie videotape. But how I entertained myself back in those days was basically reading and entertainment, exercising. But a lot of the information that I received about a lot of things that entertained me were on paper, either through a book or through a magazine, or just getting out and playing a sport either with my sons or with some friends. I was heavily into bowling at one time.
Oh, really?
In a
Cool.
bowling league. And then the bowling came out on the internet, and then you didn't do bowling
Yeah,
anymore.
bowling came out. You never had to go bowling again. That's really great. I guess, the final question would be, do you think that this change in the way we entertain ourselves is a positive thing? Or do you wish it could still be like that?
Well, I don't think it's positive or negative. I think it's just a changing way that I think a lot of people are still continuing their old traditions of entertainment themselves by downloading books. Now the book is electronic, and now the actual phone or the reader will read the book to you. So it's still in the same way that you're being entertained. It's just all electronic now. I think as time goes on, you know, at one point in time, it's going to change the entire world. If you look at Uber,
Yeah.
the app Uber, it's going to completely wipe out the way you call for taxis. And even the Uber drivers, they're going to be out of work as well, because once the driverless cars start coming about, you'll just be able to punch in a request on the internet, and there'll be a car waiting for you outside.
Yeah, no, it's really crazy
Right.
how it's going to change. But yeah, I think, you know, in this class it's really interesting to see how much the internet has impacted, you know, several aspects of our lives. And I think a lot of what this class has taught me is that it's more of a positive thing than a negative thing. And I think a lot of people can have their own opinion, and, you know, and I think a lot of people do fear the change, and I think I would, you know, kind of feel the same way. But one of the main points in the class was that, you know, when reading first came out, when books were first, you know, invented, that was viewed as a negative thing. People thought that that was a distraction. And I think that's kind of what people are going through with the internet. They view it as a distraction, especially in like an educational setting, when in fact it's just like grading, or like, you know, making our education even better, and, you know, giving us more access to information. So yeah, with anything there's pros and cons, but I hope that, you know, this term project and the class in general gives people a, you know, greater sense of what the internet is all about.
You know, the internet, when you talk about internet in classrooms, and you've probably heard the term before about the gap between those who have the internet access and those who don't. That gap is widening and widening with every year that passes. You know, there's countries out there that don't even have internet access at all.
Yeah.
So, you know, once they get their hands on it, it becomes a frenzied thing. There's also a big paradigm shift that's going on in the schools, where the kids aren't even picking up books anymore. They're picking up a tablet.
Yeah.
And so many schools now are actually going on a 1-to-1 ratio for tablet to students. You know, in the past, it was like 1 tablet to 5 or 10 students.
Yeah.
Now, every student is getting a tablet, and it's rare that they actually touch a book.
Yeah, no, that in my senior year of high school, they required every single student to purchase an iPad, and I did not have a textbook from here on out. And it was really different, but I think it was a good change, you know, taking notes on the iPad and everything like that. But, you know, I didn't like it at first, because I actually like having the physical copy of the book. But it definitely helped not having things in my backpack, and, you know, it's great to have it all right there. It was a better way to be organized. So I think like I said before, it's just like pros and cons, but hopefully I think more people will view it as a pro.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for answering all these
You're
questions.
welcome.
I really, really appreciate it. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and have a great day. Thanks for watching.